We're going to proceed to questioning now. Everyone's going to stick to the 5-minute rule. I now recognize Ranking Member Pappas for 5 minutes for questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Devlin, for joining us. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you also relating your experience as a voc rehab counselor. And that's all valuable perspective, but I also noticed that the executive director of the program, the one program that we're discussing today, is not at this hearing. Mr. Pamperin led the program during record-setting enrollment during the PACT Act, the development of the RES scheduling system. In fact, the reason I think we're holding this hearing is because the chairman and Mr. Pamperin had a back-and-forth line of questioning at a hearing a few weeks ago. And so I'm wondering if you can answer the question why Mr. Pamperin is not at this hearing today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. So Mr. Pamperin is in charge of the VRNE service program. But as I'm currently performing the delegable duties of the Undersecretary for Benefits, I'm also responsible not only for the VRNE program, but for the Office of Field Operations. VRNE service controls the policy making, the quality assurance, and many other functions in VRNE, but it's field operations that we're typically talking about that we have concerns with. It's the staffing in the field, it's the counselors doing the work on the ground, and the VRNE program leaders are just one group of leaders that are responsible for implementing the program. We're also talking about VA regional office directors and district directors. Those people don't report to Mr. Pamperin, they report to me.
Well, I don't doubt your oversight and your involvement in the program, but he is the named executive director of the program. There are 4 additional seats at that table, and one of them should have been filled by him. I'm wondering if we can get into the detail of some of your testimony and talk about the extended enrollment times that we have seen. The chairman has brought to this committee's attention a few cases in which veterans have been in VRNE for far longer than the policy ever intended. Can you help us understand why there are times that veterans might need to stay in the program longer than just the average time?
Yes, there are many reasons that a veteran might be in a program for a long time. Sometimes it's because they're in and out of the program. So maybe they began their program and life circumstances took over. It could be a worsening of their disability conditions. It could be some other life circumstances. It could be a geographic relocation. It could be an accident. It could be a family emergency. It could be a whole host of reasons that could interrupt that veteran's program. And then they can return when those issues are resolved. You know, I've seen a case, just a veteran who was rehabilitated just July 8th, and that veteran was in the program for a few years, had to take time off because of disability conditions, and then came back years later and was able to finish, graduate the program in May, get a job in May as a human resources manager, and is successfully rehabilitated. You might look at that on the surface and say, well, why was that veteran in the program so long? But they needed to take the time off for those medical conditions to restore their health.
Well, thanks. And are veterans paid by VA for the entire time period that they're in the program?
Veterans receive subsistence allowance only for the time that they're actively pursuing training.
Okay. And is there an average number of months that benefits are paid out?
Veterans are typically entitled to up to 48 months of entitlement for payment of subsistence unless an extension is granted.
Okay. And are there just the most common reason why a veteran might exceed that 48-month time frame?
Typically, it's because they have what we call a serious employment handicap, which means they have significant barriers to employability above an employment handicap that requires them to have additional months of training that they might need to become employable and compete with other people for that same occupation.
So when a veteran enrolls in VRNE, what's the process and how are counselors assigned to that veteran?
Counselors are typically assigned based on geography, where the veteran applies. As I indicated earlier, however, because of our capacity issues, we've assigned veteran applicants to counselors that have availability so that they don't have to wait. Those counselors would meet with that veteran either virtually or in person, depending on the circumstances, to determine their entitlement and review what type of rehabilitation program they might need.
So we do hear complaints from veterans sometimes about the difficulty in getting in contact with their counselor. So if a veteran moves to a college in a different location, do they keep the same counselor or are they assigned a new one?
It depends on the changes and the capacity of the VRNE office. But if a veteran is having a hard time reaching their counselor and they've left a voicemail message and not gotten a return call, I would encourage them to call our main number because we can warm transfer them to the VRNE office and see if somebody else in that office can make sure that they get taken care of.
Okay. And my time's limited, so maybe we'll come back in a second round, but thank you. I yield back.